Let's go ahead and review pass optimal and GPP winning lineups because, well, first of all, I love kind of seeing what happens every single year when it comes to the optimal and the GPP. Like sometimes the optimal leaves a ton of money on the table, sometimes it doesn't. But I like to see if DraftKings gets their salary construction correct and how well some of the top salary golfers perform at this golf course. So we can go all the way back to 2018, kind of when DraftKings started implementing salaries for every golf tournament, not just the majors. In 2018 is when Ted Potter Jr. took down Dustin Johnson, if you remember that one. But take a look at this. I think this is really interesting. I would imagine that most pass optimal lineups would have left a ton of money on the table for this tournament. And this is kind of foreshadowing because you're going to see a lot of the same trends happen throughout this segment. DJ, so he's not in the optimal, but he was second. Jason Day was in the optimal. He was $10,900. So we have our first 10K going through this. But hey, look at this. 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6. It's the model that I continue to advocate for. It's where you should always start building your lineups from. Can you put a 10K golfer in your lineup? With that, can you also then put a 9, an 8, 2 7s, and a 6? If not, remember, you can make 2 substitutions. So if you don't want a 9K in your lineup, you can either put a second 10K in your lineup or drop that 9 down to an 8. So it would look like a 10, 8, 8, 7, 7, 6. And again, you can make 2 substitutions. So maybe you want another 10. You go 10, 10. Remember, we don't want a 9. We can drop that 8 down to a 7, which would be kind of weird, but you go 10, 10, 7, 7, 7, 6, or 10, 10, 8, 7, 6, 6. So you do something like that. Remember, you make 2 substitutions. But either way, we have a 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6 start right here in 2018. Do we see that in 2019? We sure do. Actually, it's 2 6Ks. Remember, we can make the substitution. So we have a 10, 2 9s. So we're going to skip an 8K. And we're going to come back up to a 9. And we would normally have 2 7s, but we're going to skip one of those and add in 2 6s. So here we have a 10, 9, 9, 7, 6, 6, like I just said in the year before. So that was your optimal lineup there, using up all $50,000. Now, your GPP winning lineup left $200 on the table, used up $49,800, and it went 10, 9, 9, 7, 7, scroll down, 6. Julian Etelane. Some of us old, like I shouldn't say old, but some of the people that have played DraftKings forever remember Julian's name. He, I'm pretty sure, is an Argentinian and was supposed to be like the next big thing, or not so much big thing, but the next big thing for Argentina golf. You know, you had Angel Cabrera and a couple other guys, Emiliano Grillo. It's kind of funny seeing his name. Either way, still has a 10K golfer in it, and we have 2 9s. I have, like, before even going into this, before even diving into this, I thought to myself, oh gosh, what we're going to see is probably, like, you know, start at a 9, drop to an 8, then have 3 7s and a 6, or maybe you go 9, 3 7s and 2 6s, you know, and leave 3,000, you know, $2,000 to $3,000 on the table. Like, I was imagining that's what the optimal lineups, because I couldn't quite remember when I went through this last year, but this is kind of cool, kind of interesting. I didn't anticipate this. 2020 is where we leave some money on the table, though. So the optimal lineup used up $48,500 of the $50,000 salary cap, and that one had a 7K. Or actually, let's start top down. We had 10K, a 9K, 7, 7, 7, 7. So we skip an 8, we skip a 6, we bring them both into the 7s, which again is doable. Now, I wouldn't leave $1,500 on the table. That's why I created a Sweet Spot Optimal that use up all 50,000, and wouldn't you know, it goes 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6. All 6 golfers are inside the top 5, just like in the optimal lineup. I didn't actually piece out how many points that scored, but your optimal scored 633. And if I were to copy all of this, I might have just found a new optimal. I had to have copied that down wrong, right? Oh, 653. I wrote it down wrong. Oh, I said it wrong. I saw 633. So 653.50. I copied too many players. And this is 650.5. Okay, yep. So 3 points behind is your sweet spot optimal. And that used up all 50,000. So this is what I like to do in these videos, is just show you like a more realistic lineup that you could actually build that uses close to all 50,000 of the salary, and then also provide you how far away from the optimal lineup was that. This was 3 points away from the optimal lineup. Your GPP winning lineup scored 601.5 points, and that used up 50,000. It went 10, 9, 2 sevens, an 8. Tell me we had a 6 and another 7. Okay, so this one went 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 7. Right? 10K in Jason Day, 9K in Phil, 8K in Ches Reavy, and then Streelman, Stallings with your 7Ks. Am I missing something? And Nick Taylor, 7K. Yeah. 3 7Ks. So it went 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 7, which also kind of follows the whole sweet spot process. Going to 2021, your optimal lineup left $1,100 on the table. It scored 667.5 points. And that consisted of Daniel Berger at 10,000, Mav at 7, Jordan at 9, Lashley at 7, Hoffman and Hoagie also at 7K. So we had 4 7K golfers there, but it started 10-9 once again. Now, I created a sweet spot optimal. That scored 664.5 points. Now, again, optimal scored 667.5. Sweet spot scored 664.5. So we're 3 points away once again, and we're only leaving $400 on the table. And that one went 10, 9, and 4 sevens as well. So again, you can make 2 substitutions. If we start 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6, we sub one of those 8Ks down to another 7, and we sub the 6K up to a 7. So we get our 4 sevens that way. It works out. And that's your 2021 year with optimal and sweet spot optimal. But your GPP winning lineup had a 10K in it, 2 8Ks, 3 8Ks, I'm sorry, a 7, and a 6. So let's read that off again. That was it started with 10, and then it put 3 8Ks in, a low 7K, and a mid 6K. So that's a super interesting build. Now, that 6K was Akshay Bhatia, which I think had a lot of buzz in 2021. So, hey, guy took it down. He scored 606.5 points, 60 points behind the optimal, 57 points behind the sweet spot optimal. So there was definitely room that you could, build in there. So going 3 8Ks might not have been the best option with that lineup. In 2022, I shouldn't even have said it that way. And from that last segment or in 2021, the guy won a GPP. So you can't say he shouldn't have gone that way, because he did, and he won money. And in 2022, your optimal score, or it used up $49,400 of the $50,000 salary cap. It scored 689 points. GPP used up all 50,000. That scored 656.5. So there's only like 30 points behind or between those lineups. That was a lot closer. And they both used north of 49,000 in the salary cap. So keep all of that in mind. Your optimal started with a 10K, 9K, 7, 7. Oh, I'm sorry. It was 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6. So we had 10 with Jordan Spieth, 9 with Fitzpatrick, 8 with Hoagie, 7 with Merritt, 7 with Damon, and 6 with Beau Hosler. Your GPP winning lineup doesn't look like they even use a 10K golfer. It went Shames Power 9, Fitzpatrick 9, Hoagie with 8, Merritt with 7, Damon 7, and McCarthy 8. So there's your balanced build. I'll read that off again. That was 2 9s, 2 8s, and 2 7s. Super balanced. So there's many ways you can take down a GPP. Now, and this one was 30 points behind, so it was really, really close. You still could take it down, going with the 10 9 8 7 7 6. Now, Bo Hosler, let's just look at that guy. 2 missed cuts leading into it. How are you going to get to someone like Bo Hosler? Even his course history isn't that great. 59, like his average finishing position before that year was 59th place, with the year before being 47th place. So I think you're going to have to find, like, if you want to hit the optimal lineup, like I'm always chasing, you're going to have to find a random 6K that just doesn't look like a good fit for this golf course or for this tournament. Or maybe you just take the more balanced approach like the GPP winner did in this last year. Let's see. Let's just piece it out. Denny McCarthy had a top 6, or top 10, I should say. Shamo had a couple top 20 finishes with a 3rd place in there. Damon didn't look good at all. Fitzpatrick had not played on U.S. soil prior to that, for that calendar year. Troy Merritt had 1 missed cut, but he had a 16th place the year before. Hoagie had 1 top 10, and that was at the American Express with 2 missed cuts. Now, I believe this is actually like, it's like the anniversary with a couple things. There was another YouTuber that came into my videos, commented when I was talking about, I think it was a review video, I was talking about how well the buckets did and how silly it is just to chase approach stats to try to find success in DFS. And he goes, how do you think we got to Tom Hoagie? He was trending up with all of his approach stats. And then he deleted the comment before I could even reply back to him. I know who you are. You know who you are. You could have left it. We could have had a playful discussion. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to threaten or be threatening. But there, I guess with approach, you certainly could have gotten there with him. I don't know if you could have gotten there with any of the other guys that were in that GPP winning lineup, but perhaps, perhaps. And I remember last year I was on a podcast with Joe Nicely. I forget what they call theirs. I don't remember what they call their pod, but him and I were talking about how he liked Cantlay and I liked Jordan Spieth. They both finished inside the top 10, both 10K golfers. That's another thing I want you all to realize here is we've seen a 10K golfer inside the top 10 every single year. There hasn't not been a 10K golfer inside the top 10. And also there hasn't not been a 10K golfer in the optimal lineup. Yeah, no, going back every single year, we use a 10K golfer in every single optimal. And if it wasn't an optimal, which it looks like it was also in the sweet spot optimal. So really starting with the 10K as well as a 9K, right? 9Ks have been every single year. I guess what I could do is just pull up the salaries here. Yeah, look at this, guys. So I keep track of the minimum amount of times that a bucket has finished inside the top 10. And we're looking at the salary buckets right here. Every single year we've seen at least one 10K golfer, 2 9K golfers, and 4 7K golfers. Like, we just went, I just kind of show you the eyeball test with the numbers. This is actually just breaking down every single golfer inside the top 10 and showing you how frequently salaries or golfers from those salaries finish inside the top 10. Now, don't get me wrong. I know, because I criticize people the same way that I can hear criticism with me saying that. You can't just use a number to fill in, your lineups with. You can't just say, okay, you need a 10, a 9, and 2 7s. You can't just say that without looking at each of those buckets, which of course we always do that, right? That's my whole shtick is we dig into the buckets. We look at the projections of what we can anticipate of golfers from that bucket finishing inside the top 10, because we bring into the quality of that bucket. So we'll get there, but very interesting that we've seen that every single year in a tournament that I feel like, gosh, with it being a Pro-Am, with the strength of field being as small as it is, as low as it is, as weak as it is, I would imagine it would have just been ransacked with 7K golfers, 6K golfers. Optimals would have left $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on the table. I anticipated that because I had forgotten what I talked about last year. It's not the case. We see at least a 10K, at least a 9K, and at least a couple sevens, obviously four sevens. So it definitely is ransacked by the 7K range. Yeah, we'll dig into this once we get into the buckets. I just wanted to point that out because I was kind of looking through all of this and kind of eyeballing it all and going, what the heck? Now, here's another piece of information that I was going through. Look at all of our 10Ks. I was trying to find another common theme with these 10K golfers to try to figure something out. One of two things. Actually, one of three things. Look at their last year finishes. Look at how many top 10 finishes they had heading into this tournament. And also look at the recent form. So this is 2018. We're only looking at 10K golfers that were in the optimal or close to. Jason Day, good last year finish, good recent form, and a top 10 finish. I don't know if we've seen the other 10Ks up there. I don't care to look at every 10K, but I just want to point out that the ones we see inside the top 10, we're kind of seeing a similar trend. Jason Day, top 4 the year before. No top 10s, but a top 20. Had great recent form coming in. Great tournament history. 2021, Berger. Had a missed cut coming into the tournament, but had 2 top 10s prior to that. Had a top 10 or had a top 20 finish the year before. Patrick Cantlay, same thing. He had a second place, a top 10. Great recent form. Top 20 finish the year before. Jordan Spieth was really close to that 10K range. He comes in with the top 10 heading into the tournament with a top 20 from the year before. Jason Day, not so much, but he did have a top 20 the year before. Kind of interesting trends that we're seeing. Jordan Spieth kind of breaks that mold here because he just has a 21st place finish, but he does have a top 20 the year before. Not super great recent form coming in. But Patrick Cantlay continues with the mold. He had a top 10, great recent form. He also had a top 20 the year before as well. So it's like, it's really hard to ignore that. When I see Jordan Spieth last year, he was in the optimal lineup, not Patrick Cantlay, but Patrick Cantlay was one shot behind Jordan Spieth, if I remember correctly. So Jordo was third last year, right? Yes. So 17 under. Okay, never mind. Patrick Cantlay was 15 under. I think Cantlay parred the last hole, which is a par 5. If I remember correctly, I thought he still had a shot. Throughout that whole back 9, I thought he still had a shot to win. That just from my memory. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, so 2022 was kind of the only odd year where like a 10K golfer didn't really follow that mold, but Patrick Cantlay was really close. Either way, we see our 10Ks with top 20 finishes the year before in every single year? 2021, Berger had that top 10 or top 20 year before. So did Cantlay. 2020, Jason Day certainly did. Jason Day also had it in 2019. And in 2018, we also see that. So that is the ongoing thing. If I was putting combinations together, I would tell you want a 10K golfer who had a top 20 finish the year before. If I scroll up, that includes Jordan Spieth, Fitzpatrick, and Hoagie. And I would say, something that might even be more helpful is if they had a top 10 finish sometime that calendar year, which you see that with Fitzpatrick and Hoagie. Of course, Jordan Spieth, last year did not have a top 10 heading into it and did just fine. We might be concerned with Jordan Spieth because he missed the cut at the Sony. He's had 2 weeks to figure it out. Maybe Jordan Spieth is a good choice. So really, really, really interesting takes considering who to play this week, just based off of what we've seen in past optimal and past GPP winning lineups. So that one went a little longer than usual, but I thought there was a lot of interesting pieces to consider in that. So that concludes your past optimal lineups as well as GPP winning lineups.